Include now. Brought to you by Evenbreak.
Hello, and welcome to another Include Now after pod. I'm joined by my co-host, the man who doesn't eat cheese on purpose. It's Adam, and I'm also joined by the wonderful Dayna after her chat with Adam earlier. Thank you very much for joining me, because I really enjoyed listening to your conversation earlier, because obviously social media is prevalent to every person, so it was really cool to hear just how inclusion plays a part too. So if you're not quite familiar with how the after pod takes place, I have 3 separate queries from our candidates, and you also have the opportunity to ask myself and Adam something in return too. So
cool.
Yeah. Okay. So the very first one is, what is your all-time favourite example of an inclusive marketing campaign?
So one of my favourites, because I have a few favourites, I'm not going to lie, but it's a campaign called Me, My Autism and I, and it's by Vanish, and I think it's a couple of years old now, and the reason why I like it or love it is because of the natural synergy on both sides. So it's so authentic for the brand to talk about, you know, because we know Vanish is, to talk about kind of clothing, obviously washing clothes, but then from the community perspective or an autistic perspective where, you know, you might have sensory issues to clothing. I just think it's pure gold to basically have on both sides that natural synergy and authenticity. So it's authentic for the brand, and it's reflective of the lived experience of the community. So
cool. Yeah. Perfect. Adam, have you potentially got one off the top of your head at all?
I'm gonna be biased. I genuinely like the Evenbreak I do it best campaign, because I think it's edgy, I think it's impactful, and it's about making sure people think and consider and understand that it's not just one way to work. We don't need to be sat on chairs behind desks to be the most productive. We could be out walking, we could be instead we could be at a desk for a minute and change to a couch, because for example I need to change my posture and keep moving. So for me, it's the Evenbreak I do best campaign. I think there's still more to come from that.
Yeah, loads, yeah.
It's great to see more people get involved.
Yep.
Perfect. Moving on, so you kind of talked about it on the earlier podcast too, but in terms of your journey, but how would someone look to become a disability influencer?
I think for a lot, like myself and a lot of people that it ended up being the path that they ended up on, is I don't know if I've ever met anyone that's intentionally set out to do it. it often comes from like either a place of frustration or what's the other word, like wanting to share. So for me, like when I started doing it, it was because I was reading all this literature about, you know, being dyslexic and how inaccessible a lot of just built-in learning systems are. And I really just wanted to kind of bring it back to basics of how that actually translates to my lived experience. So in terms of someone wanting to get involved in it, it would be to start with lived experience if you feel comfortable, obviously. I mean, obviously that's the angle that I know best from, but starting from lived experience and also just having a go with different content types. I think, you know, you can find your niche or whatever in terms of content later, but initially really taking the opportunity to just explore whether it's, you know, directly face to camera, whether it's skits, whether it's more vlog based content, or, you know, if you have lots of inclusion knowledge, you know, sharing that in a bite-sized format. So yeah, it would be to play around and not be too pigeonholed into what you think you want to be.
Yeah, because I think it is like certainly the case, like when you look at like influences from the inclusion sort of world, or not that really popular influences, you can kind of see that their journey and where like everything always changes.
Yeah.
So like as an influencer, you always need to change your type of content too, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the really exciting thing about being a creator is actually at the beginning when you are exploring, because later on when you become more solidified in your page or whatever. So for me, that was skit content. I've built a page off theatrical skits that are almost absurdly obscure but are actual conversations I've had, and then you put them in that context and suddenly it's like, oh, that's really, really strange. And now it's actually a lot harder for me to get good metrics off good content that's not a skit. So yeah, like any advice would literally be to just play around, like use it as a playground. And if you can create kind of a diverse content type from the beginning, it's a lot easier long term to allow the content to mold and shape as you grow and not be pigeonholed.
Cool, perfect. Like then the third thing that our candidates wanted to know was, what's the best tip you have for a disabled person looking for a new job?
It would be to access all the resources that are out there. So Evenbreak is one of them, and particularly the Careers Hive, I think, is a great like starting point for that. I know I have a couple of friends that since I joined Evenbreak are actually getting free career coaching as a result. So yeah, and then other than that, being, you know, kind of aware around things like access to work. So many like disabled people that I meet don't even know about access to work, or the process behind it and how to go about it. So yeah, that would be my tip. And also know that when you get into a role or a job, that reasonable adjustments change, and it's okay that they change. And, you know, it's not a fixed conversation that you have right at the beginning and then that's what you have to live with. Like it can be adaptable and flexible, and you can have conversations. So yeah, kind of knowing what's out there and also knowing what you have a right to.
Cool. Adam, like, is there anything that you could add on top of that?
I'm gonna say Evenbreak. You know, any global job board that I'm for disabled people. I mean, currently got 17,000 jobs that I fund job boards. We're working more closely with our partners to, you know, really bridge the gap between so much talent out there and includes workplaces. So, Evenbreak.com is where Where'd you go?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, because I would just like to point out that this it isn't a paid ad podcast, but like we certainly know how to help create the change that's needed. So we also certainly like to talk about the work that we're currently doing too. But because we've now reached the point of the episode where you get to ask Adam and I something, so I will pass it over.
Okay, so I've got a question. I'll answer it, and then I want to know what yours guys are.
Cool.
So it would be, what are your quick wins for inclusion? So for mine, as someone that works in social media, you know, using captions and alt text in your social content, like that's something you can go and chat to your social media manager about today. And you know, it's a very basic level of inclusion and accessibility that we don't see a lot, and it's pretty much free to use. There's so many free resources online to be able to like learn how to do it. So yeah, I'm going to pass over to you guys now. What's your inclusion quick win?
Because I think it's such a simple point, but just to have conversations, talking to the people like that are a part of potential campaigns, or like anything like that, where like even with some recent government sort of changes too, it was clear that all the people that they probably should have talked to weren't always a part of the conversation. So I would just say talking to the correct sort of people. Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm going to segue from that. I think that's a really important point, which is listen to that lived experience. I'm going to kind of, my quick win is connected with that, which is to appoint a executive sponsor to your EIG, environmental group. I think EIGs are a great source of lived experience and listening to the people within the organisations, that their voices need to be heard. It's exactly what you're saying, Josh. So I think for me, having an executive sponsor within organisations that sit in the EIG is a way of, one, showing that we're serious about disability and grievance, and two, making sure that lived experience is heard at senior level. So that'd be my quick win.
Nice.
Perfect. Well, because I think that's a very lovely point to wrap up on, and I just wanted to say thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Like, and hopefully for the people that are watching or listening to this podcast, you've had the opportunity to take something away that like you could potentially act on, like for example, Adam's ERG point, but there's only one more thing to say, and if you've liked this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and sub to the podcast. And we'll hopefully catch you next time as well. Bye.